This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. I'm very excited to be speaking with Kate Cobb, Kevin Bigley, and Scott Michael Foster about Okie. How are you all doing today?
Good, good.
Good.
How you doing?
Good, good. I want to know first, how are you received when you go back to your hometowns?
So much vitriol and hatred. Um,
I don't go. I just don't go.
I just don't know. I can't go back there. It's banned me.
Chased away with broomsticks.
Yeah. No, I find a lot of like love and support from my hometown. Shout out Elmhurst, Illinois. Uh, I have like my kindergarten teacher, who is supportive and just it's a great town. So I find a lot of love there. How about you?
I don't know if I'm received at all. I think I think it's just just ships passing in the night. I'll see some people for sure. But mostly it's just I think most of the feelings I have are so internal. I'm such a nostalgic sap too. Like there's a lot of like me just driving around and looking at places and going, yep, like
Stop there one.
so yeah, and I'll run into some folks and see some people and stuff. But yeah, it's a very interesting relationship I have with it. I love it though. I absolutely love it.
I would say I moved a few times. So I don't I say I'm from Texas, but I was really born in Illinois and raised in Indiana, and I moved to California when I was 18. So to say what my actual hometown is tough. And like Kevin, I don't think I'm received in any way. I don't think people care. Which can be good or bad, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think there's not a huge response, I would say.
You guys need to come to my hometown. They'd love you.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go to Elmhurst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're starting this interview out on a very humorous note, and I'm curious because this is an interesting film that when I was looking back in my email described as a psycho thriller comedy drama film, I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out exactly well, it was definitely good, but I don't really know what what are you hoping that people will go in expecting, if anything?
Everything so that they're not
Yeah.
disappointed by anything.
A
Yeah.
movie,
A film watching
a
experience.
film watching experience. Yeah.
It's hard to this film that I mean you saw it is kind of hard to nail down exactly what
Yeah.
genre it is, but that's something that I think we get a lot of we have a lot of fun with is that genre bending. I also think that generally an authentic human experience, it's this cliche, but the authentic human experience is a mixture of all of those things. And so I think that any sort of engaging story may have that many different elements to it. And I think as long as you're staying authentic and grounded within those elements, then you can have as many of them exist as you want.
Yeah, we really wanted to play with POV in this, and I think so much of this film is about the movie Louis thinks he's in and how that changes. So for a good portion of the film, about half of it, he thinks he's in Garden State, and he's just kind of running around and reconnecting with his old flame, and oh man, the past. And then when he finds himself kind of unable to leave, he's kind of thinking he's in the Twilight Zone, and then near the end, he thinks he's in Deliverance. Like it kind of gets more and more intense. So the I think what we love to some kind, not necessarily theme, but more device that we like to play with in a lot of our stuff is building laughs or comedy up top and then paying for them later in a much more severe way. For instance, the fair is kind of talked about initially and teased and then joked about. So hopefully in festival audiences, it was really cool to see them laugh every time around the third or fourth time people start asking, you going to the fair? Are you home for the fair? Then it was a joke. But then when you start getting to this fair, it does take on that Deliverance POV of like, wow, something really messed up and bad could happen at this movie was building toward a county fair. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to sum it up in a way that I didn't think could necessarily be summed up. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, right.
Can you tell me, Kate and Kevin, just about conceiving of this film and specifically like the proof of concept, that process of making something that wasn't going to be the final version to then this?
Yeah. So the general story is that we had Kevin and I are married. We've been together for a long time and we've been working and creating things together a long time. But we had two different acting careers. I started as an actor And so we kind of we're working on separate things, and we decided we wanted to do something that could bring together the old crew of creators. And so we knew that we were going to have to self-fund the short. And so we thought about places we could get for free. His hometown is a place that we knew the area. And so when he started conceiving of the short, we thought we could do it there for a small amount of money in 3 days. And then we used the proof of concept as a, as something to get us funding for the feature itself. And then about a year after the proof of concept, we shot the feature.
Yeah, and the short was far too long for just a short. It was like 19 minutes. But to us, well, we used it with the Chicago Media Angels in discussion with them. We were like, how much do you think this cost us? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people we know will shoot shorts for like $50,000. And they were like, I don't know, like around there. And we were like, no action. So we used it as a way to show that we could do something for really cheap and we can make it look expensive. And they championed us and really believed in us. They produced a movie that Scott and I did. Deborah was the name of it. And yeah, they really wanted to work with us as a team. So, yeah.
Would you do things differently in the future? Or do you feel like this was a great path to the feature you wanted to make?
Doing things differently in the future. I think that the short, using the short was a really smart move, honestly, when I think back on it, even because we were able to work with Scott on the short, and even like getting to know him and what he brought to Louis, I think really informed the feature. So that is a really good exercise, I think, in kind of like winnowing in on exactly the kind of film you want to make and the kind of characters you want to portray. So I think that was really helpful as far as like a directing exercise for me personally. But I think generally it would be, of course, it would be nice if features just got funded and it was easy to do, but I would highly recommend that process of things to other people if that's an avenue that they wanted to go down.
Yeah, ultimately when we brought this feature, we brought this feature to reps who I am no longer with, but it was because I gave this to them and I was like, we want to do this and we want to do it cheaply, and we Kate direct and Scott and I to be in, and they were like, we think you could sell it and not have any of you in it or part of it. And we were like, oh, okay. And then we went to this company that had worked with Scott and I and liked Kate and everything, and we made it happen. So I think it's kind of like less about maybe doing things differently, and the only way to do things is maybe use your resources that you have and just kind of tell yourself that it's happening no matter what, because that's what the short was. We were like, there's different versions of this movie. There's a version that costs what it costs for us to make it, or there's a version that costs like, nothing, like our own money, like 10 grand or whatever to make a feature. Like we'll do it,
Scott, what was your experience on the other side of this, coming to join this great couple?
Great couple.
Fantastic couple. Visionaries. Yeah. So like Kevin said, he and I, worked on a movie together already. So we had basically spent a month, in an apartment above a garage shooting a movie in the pandemic. And so we got to know each other pretty quick. And this short film was, exciting for me. We get to play again. And then, obviously to go meet Kate and have fun up in Sacramento to do short was awesome. And then to see that we actually get to do it again on a bigger scale, not much bigger scale, but a bigger scale,
longer scale,
longer scale, was an absolute joy. I mean, I was saying before that to me, the best part of making independent films is just getting to do it with your friends. It's a passionate labor of love. And it's been my favorite way to do independent films, because sometimes you do them and it's with people you don't know, and that's all great, especially if the story's good. But to do something that is a great story with people that you care about, trust, that was a huge thing. I could trust these guys with this. I knew I was in good hands. So I love the way it turned out. I think it's one of the best things I've done, and I'm not saying that because of me. I'm saying that because of them. Like, they made this a really good movie. So I'm thankful all around to even be a part of it.
Well, since you laughed at my great couple remark, I think I would mention I spoke last week to the filmmakers behind Magpie, which is written by Tom Bateman and starring his wife Daisy Ridley, and they're very happily married. But the movie is about someone in like the worst marriage possible, and I wouldn't say that this film really deals with healthy or good relationships. So I think it's interesting to see something like this emerge from people who were obviously very happy together and work together very well, but is not about people who do a good job of that. So what would you say about that?
We're just really good actors. So
You notice we aren't together in the movie.
in a thing where my character and Scott's character are together. So clearly,
But you were in the short, so what happened?
that's true. I don't know.
Just
I
saying.
don't.
Good catch, Scott.
Yeah, I don't know.
Thanks.
For us, we're pretty good at keeping the marriage part of it and the producing partners part of it kind of separate. It's not always easy to keep the producing partners part of it from not overtaking everything in your entire life, because we never take any time off. So we are constantly working. But I think like you have to, it's just like the concept of like you have to know the rules before you break them.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to have a good and bad relationship before you can portray them. So I think, having a good relationship is just as easily a way into understanding bad relationships as having a bad relationship.
Also, like we the way we are as a couple, we don't really have like blow up fights where we say mean things or something.
Until tonight.
We're more quiet fighters, which is actually really conducive to a working relationship. And I think you kind of end up having a working relationship that's similar to your marriage. So there's a lot of fighting for things very quietly and passive aggressive comments, but mostly, but mostly we're very respectful of one another, what one another wants, and we delegate in our normal lives, I think too, in our marital lives, and so we're good at delegating.
I also think it's about like what Scott was saying. I had so much trust in Scott that no matter what note I gave him, he was going to understand it, put it through his own voice, and bring something more to it than I could possibly have hoped for. Right. And I think that's kind of relationships in general when you're doing these kinds of indie films, is that it's all about trust, it's all about respect, and really that's what makes a good producing partner, and that's what makes a good marriage.
Oh, and as a screenwriter, I mean, to know that when you sell a movie, and I mean they're going to go off and make it, you've basically just built the blueprints, they're building the house. So for this, it's like, and they can make all sorts of changes. So to give this to the director, who's my wife, and be like, she's going to make the best version of, like, she wants to make the exact same movie that I wanted to make. So you're in the best position possible as a writer to give it to that director.
One of the reasons that I sought this film out was that I knew Scott and Kevin from previous roles. Kate, it's great to see you also. I wasn't as familiar with your stuff, but I'm excited, I want to briefly just touch on some of that. Scott, you were in a show that deals very much with mental health that I think is not like this, but that's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And I feel like that's had a pretty good life after the fact. And given I think it's abysmally low ratings, the fact that it got 4 seasons is something to celebrate. What kind of reflections do you have on that show a few years after it's over?
I loved that show. I got to do an original song and be part of a TV musical, which, how many people can say that? When I thought I wasn't going to be able, have music in my career after I moved to LA. I didn't go to Broadway like I wanted to, so I thought that was done. But then this show kind of brought that out, which was great. I'm super thankful for that. And yeah, it does have a great fan base. A lot of people watch it now. We got to do live versions of that show. We went on tour, played some of the biggest venues that will never be able to even step foot in again, like Radio City and the Palladium in London. And, we got to play just these incredible venues. So it was a really great opportunity. Very thankful for it.
And Kevin, I'm a big fan of Upload, and we've actually had a chance, I think, to speak once or twice before about it. I think we'll have a chance again, given that the more is coming. So I want to ask you instead about another show that's also on Amazon with the same number of letters, and that's Undone. I think it's too late to expect that we're going to have more of that because it's been a number of years. But that to me is just such an incredible show that I don't think was ever officially canceled. But
Yeah, I think they just kind of let it become undone,
Oh wow.
Abe.
I've seen that coming. Yeah.
Yeah,
About that.
a mile away. Yeah, I loved that. That was just such a creatively fulfilling and rewarding experience. It's such a weird deal. I feel like at that point in my career, especially doing Undone and Upload at the same time, I was in two of the most heavily green screened shows. So that was just a weird experience. You're being drawn over, it was just so cool. And yeah, it was fun to play someone who was like, I don't know. It's probably my dumbest character. It was fantastic.
Dumbest character.
Yeah, probably the lowest IQ of my
There we go.
characters. Yeah.
Well, this is awards buzz, and especially with all of our talk of independent film today, I'm curious what you've all seen recently. If there's a show or performance, film that you really strikes you as particularly awards worthy that you just would love to shout out.
Okay, I have to say, we just wrapped my most recent feature. I just wrapped on Friday, so I've been working on that for 6 months. I have not seen any movies, and I'm in the SAG committee this year that is supposed to have watched all of the movies.
She's seen nothing.
Truly, I've had no time to watch anything. I watched Selling Sunset when I need to turn my brain off. And so I have not seen, I mean, truly, I have not seen.
Oh, I thought you were going to turn it and say something, but there's one
No,
performance.
I swear.
That's what I was waiting for too.
She's got it. I know. I was leading up
If
to
it's
that.
an independent film, I mean,
Autumn's movie.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Woman of the Hour.
Woman of the Hour. And
Done.
Autumn Best in
Done.
that is
Autumn Best, who I just worked with on my last film, she played
Yes.
one of the leads, and she is a young spark of a person, and she does an excellent job, and that is an excellent movie, and everyone should see it.
Yeah.
There you go. I saved it in the end.
I'm gonna say one, and I'm gonna be like, oh wait, after this, that's the one I actually.
Yeah.
But Beetlejuice, no.
Really good independent filmmaking.
Yeah, I don't know if I have
Beetlejuice.
any that we've really seen.
This that came out this year.
I really like the people, like you obviously have like these like IP that feels very, like Romulus is obviously really cool and a new pivot and it's reminiscent of the older one. That's great. But like, I mean, as divisive as I guess it can be from an opinion standpoint, I love that Longlegs became a thing because of just how original it is.
It's also beautifully made. The
Beautifully
filmmaking is really
made.
good.
And I just think it's just such I mean, it's a really cool film that we saw an indie at Santa Barbara, Edge of Everything, which is fantastic, and it was released a couple months ago.
Edge of Everything, also Guacamole Yesterdays is another incredible film that we
really cool,
So
actual
we had watched a few
genuine,
films.
yeah, we're going to festivals.
Yeah.
But the genuine indie filmmaking that are original ideas, really, really cool filmmakers too. So yeah, those projects were great.
Scott, what have you seen?
I have no excuse, but I've just been watching a bunch of old movies that everyone's always like, you've never seen X, and so I'm catching up on movies from yesteryear. So I don't have any sort of.
Give us an old performance. Gregory Peck in.
No, you know what I watched for the first time that I hadn't seen? The Exorcist.
Oh,
Never
I
seen
watched
it.
that the other day. Yeah,
What did
It's phenomenal.
ridiculous.
it's good, isn't it?
It's like tragically low rated across. It's like I think it's one of the best horror movies I've seen. It's
I was
really
expecting
good.
to see it on the AFI Top 100. I don't know how it's
Yeah.
not.
I don't either. It's a great movie. Phenomenal movie.
It's really
Anyway,
great.
that's my take.
Well, just for any of you
Go see
horror
The
buffs,
Exorcist.
just look for that. You might have to dig a little bit, but it's around.
Well, I will say I asked this question at the end of almost all my interviews, and this is the first time I think that I've gotten. You've mentioned, I think, two films that I've never heard of, and so giving me good homework to find some independent film is an excellent.
You've never heard of The
excellent thing.
Exorcist?
Yeah, that's
I've
great.
never heard of The Exorcist.
Weird.
Or the
Edge of
Alien franchise.
Everything
That was the
is
other
like-
one. Yeah.
Edge of Everything is an insanely great movie. It's really tight, and they shot it for like 250,000. I mean,
Yeah,
like
it's
nothing.
excellent.
and it is
Highly recommend.
Yeah, very good.
Well, I will seek it out. And everyone else watching here, if you've made it this far without having seen or heard of Okie, I'm impressed. But definitely go check it out. Thanks so much, guys, and good luck.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you.